Alright, so right now I'd like to show you a little bit more about how I set up Ableton for a generative live set. So when I'm trying to play generative music live, I have a few things that I like to do, and I'm going to show you how I do that right now. And the main things we're trying to look for flexibility, meaning that we want to do as much as possible with as few knobs as possible, and we want to especially when we're talking about generative music, we want to have control over the pertinent aspects of the track that we're making. But of course, we want to leave it open because we want it to be sort of random. That's kind of the fun of the entire thing. So I'm just going to show you how I set this up real quick. So the first thing I do is I make what I call a seed clip, and if you've watched my other videos about this, you'll know what I'm talking about. The reason that I need this is because it doesn't really matter how long it is. It just matters that it's a one note that fills an entire bar. It doesn't matter how long it is. It doesn't matter what tone it is. Okay, so what it does is it just feeds this one MIDI note into the effect rack, which I'm going to put up now. So I have these MIDI effect racks that I've made, and the one that I want first of all is the rhythm generator, and this can also be found. It can be explained on the blog, and you'll see it has a few different parameters. I'm going to shut off most of this stuff here. It's got the synced rate, which is going to change how big or small the subdivisions are. It's got the lowest, which is actually going to change basically the I like to say the density. Basically, if the higher it is, the fewer notes there'll be. The lower it is, the more notes there'll be. Basically, it just changes the threshold. And then time length, which is pretty self-explanatory. So the longer this is, the longer the notes will be. The shorter it is, the shorter the notes will be. And then I'm going to put what's called major scalar, which is basically just a scale effect. And it's got a few little extra things on it, but for the most part, it's just a scale effect. And you could do that with just a plain scale effect if you'd like. And now for the more interesting stuff. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put an instrument on here. Let's just go ahead and start with a instrument rack, and we'll just start with a piano sounding instrument. Doesn't have to be a piano, could be anything. I'm partial to having some sort of acoustic piano though, so let's find a good one. Let's just go ahead and get Grand Hall. There we go. And so we should start to hear stuff. So you'll see if I lower the lowest, more actual notes. If I raise this lowest up a little bit, you'll see that it's sort of it starts to be more infrequent. And the time length, clearly, if I could make it the notes themselves longer or shorter, and I can transpose this down, let's say an octave here. You could hear the effects there. Okay, so we already have some pretty cool sounding stuff here. Turn chords on, even 7 if I'd like to. Okay, so this is we're halfway there, but this isn't gonna really. I could duplicate this and make a whole bunch of versions of this and change the parameters. That'd be kind of cool. Right now, what we do this. Let's go ahead and make an instrument rack out of this piano. I'm going to open up the chain, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that chain, or actually I'm just going to create another chain, and I'm going to put another MIDI instrument on that. So let's go ahead and pick ambient and evolving. And usually I'd like to put some instruments that have some of the more complicated instruments that come with suite, like stuff from analog and operator. But right now, let's just try to keep it kind of simple here. Sorry about that. So now I have these two different chains. And now the things that go through are going to be playing, all the notes are going to play both of these instruments, which is not exactly what we want. So we want to be able to separate the two. So let's go over to chain. I'm going to select both of these and drag these bars out. And now I'm going to basically make a chain selector so that I can, with one knob, switch between the two instruments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag out, oops, sorry, I have both of them selected here. So I'm going to drag this top bar over to the right, like so. And this bottom bar I'm going to drag all the way to the left, like so. And now you'll hear as I move this chain over to the right, in this case, it's only going to be playing this pad effect. The problem with this, though, is that it's not loud enough. So that's a different problem. But as I turn this chain select to the right, you'll hear that the piano gets more and more. So clearly we don't want to use this pad. So let's try something else. Let's do something a little bit more synthetic. Let's just try synth pad. How about that? Something down here. See what we can do. So there we go. Now we're getting something a little bit more useful. Okay, so now you can see that we have one generator of all the notes, but we have this parameter which is going to change which instrument it's going to. And you know, ostensibly, if you'd like to, what I like to do is I like to have a couple of these going, actually. So I'll have a couple of different chains and have the chain selector have different regions that correspond to different instruments, and that way I can just sort of map and MIDI controller to the chain selector and go between them. Now, this is kind of, you know, of limited utility right now because I can only play one instrument at a time, right? So that's not exactly what we want. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to make, let's just say, let's do 2 more audio tracks for right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to route the audio from this track, which has our instruments on it, into these guys right here. So it's going to go ahead and select both, and I'm going to press Option Command I, which is going to open the I/O view, and I'm going to do audio from, and I'm going to get it from this instrument rack. So I'm going to close that again, and you'll see that if I press record arm on either of these, audio is going to go to either one of these tracks. So what I can do is I can record a clip with, like, let's say this this pad playing. I can record a clip of this, maybe make it a little bit slower with kind of a long tones here, like so. Let's just record a clip of that. It's going to loop right here, so if I solo this, see that. We'll switch over to this track. Let's just change it up and make it the piano. Speed it up. Like so. We'll record a little bit of this. Press play again. If we want to, we can just keep on doing the same thing. Audio from. So. Just change the parameters again, make it really long notes. Really infrequent, really long. Kind of like a bass line from the piano right here. lower. Okay? There we go. Now we're going. Loop that. I can even turn off the original right now. So now I have these 3 different little tracks going on that I can mess with the volume of. I can apply effects to it if I want. I can even, if I'd like to, I can start recording different versions of these clips in each one of these tracks. You know, there's all kinds of different options I can do here. And the good thing is that it's all generative, right? So this is all random, so it really allows you to explore and it frees you up. I mean, I really like to do this quite a bit. Mess with different subdivisions, do all kinds of stuff. So anyway, and what I've showed you here I've done with the mouse, but I mean clearly this is not the most effective. So what I can do when I'm really actually performing this kind of stuff is I'll do it almost exclusively with the MIDI controller. And with the way that I have this set up, I can use just maybe 8 or 9 knobs, like just a couple of buttons. So anyway, I hope that gives you an idea of how you can use Ableton Live to set up a generative MIDI set that you can use to play live, and you can just do this forever and ever. And I mean, clearly some people will probably get bored, but I mean, it's a really, really good way to harness that power and the randomness of it and try to make something beautiful out of it.